Okay, here we go with this lesson. This is graphing and this is piecewise defined functions. And remind me in class to give you some of this graph paper so you guys can take notes, the one that has two grids on a sheet. If you're in class, if you're not in class, well, remember, go to Schoology, go to the yellow folder, and you can print out your own graph paper there. I provided some that have two on a sheet, two of these coordinate planes on a sheet, or three on a sheet, or six on a sheet, but I'm using the one that has two. Okay, graphing piecewise defined functions. Honestly, there's not going to be anything new that we haven't seen here, so I'm going to go kind of quicker for that reason. When you first see these, again, they're going to look intimidating, but just listen and I'll break it down, and you'll realize that you're going to be good with this. You're going to be okay with this. All right, so let's jump into this. Number one, we'll start off with something easy, right? Let's start with something easy. You're supposed to graph this. What if you have something like this function f of x is equal to, and you know these piecewise defined functions that have, they'll have, I mean, these just have a number here, but you'll have like a function or an equation here, and then it'll have a comma, and sometimes they say the word if or for, but I'm not going to be writing it. And then you'll have an inequality here. So for this case, we're going to do this, and for this one, we're going to do this. So go ahead and copy this down, and again, pause it if you need to, and push play or rewind it. And then we're going to take it from there. And again, I know it looks complicated. Don't panic. I'm going to make this easy for you. Okay, here we go. So there's essentially two functions. There's this one up on top, which I'm going to, let's do this in blue. It's this function, f of x is equal to 3. And then I'm going to put a comma, and I'm just going to write this, the inequality here, right? You have this one here, right? And you know what? Let's do that one first. Let's just go ahead and do that one first. We'll come back to the second one. Okay. Now remember, the good thing about these functions, I'm going to allow you to use the Desmos, the graphing calculator, the one that we have online, right? The graphing calculator, the online graphing calculator is, let me write it up here. Desmos.com, right? The online graphing calculator. So you're going to be able to enter these functions here, and you'll see the whole function. You'll see the whole graph. It'll be continuous, but see, this is where you have this domain, this restriction, this interval, this inequality here. So this one's your function. This part here is the function, right? And this part is your inequality or your domain, right? Which is inequality, which is going to be your domain. This is pretty much going to tell you how much of this function do I want to see. I don't want. You're going to graph the whole thing, but then you're going to erase the part that it's asking you for the values of x that we want to see or that we don't want to see. So let's start with this function. When you just have a number like this, like f of x is equal to 3, I mean, you can graph it. You can go to Desmos and type that in to graph it. But really, this is the equation y is equal to 3. And that's pretty much a straight line. This is just a line right here. They're not all going to be lines, but most of them that you're going to see here are going to be lines. I'm going to graph this line of y is equal to 3 right here. That means I go to y. I go to y. To positive 3 on y, right? Positive 3. Positive 3. I go y. 1, 2, 3. And it's the line that goes through there. So it can't go this way because it'll hit all the numbers on y. It's actually the line that goes and oh, I don't want to draw this. I'll draw it really lightly. Remember, it's continuous. It's the line that would go through there like that, right? I'm going to do this really lightly. I have a pen. I know I cannot erase. Very lightly. I know you have a pencil. Do it with your pencil. Okay. But then now this is where you have to read this, because I only want to see the line, right? Whatever the shape of the function is, in this case it's a line. I only want to see this line for these values of x. This is your domain, remember that? Now what is this saying here? This is saying that I want what? X is a number that is what? Less than or equal to -2. I want all the values. I only want to see this graph, this function, from the values of x that are less than or equal to -2. So I go to x, I go to -2, and I go up to the graph, right? Where -2 is, right? I want the values of x for this graph. You know what? I'm going to put a circle there. Go to x, go to -2, put a circle. Since it has the equal sign, we're going to fill it in. It will include this point, -2. And it says, I want to see the values of x that are less than or equal to -2. Would that be to the right or would that be to the left? Well, the values that are less than -2 are over here. So that means we're gonna keep all this, and I know it keeps going that way, so I'll put a little arrow going that way. See, and you would erase all of this part. See, now is where you would erase this. I don't have an eraser; it's a pen. But for this line that was y is equal to 3, okay, you graph it, and even if you don't know how to graph it, you're gonna use the graphing calculator. That's gonna do that part for you. You got to do this part and say which piece, right? This is why these are called piecewise defined. They're defining the piece of that function that they only want to see. And this is what's going to control that and tell you. I only want to see the values of x. So I go to x, I go to a -2, and all the values that are less than -2 would be everything on this side of the graph. Let's do the next one, right? We didn't do this one here. Okay, so the second part of this, let me zoom out. The second one that we haven't done is this one, and I'm going to do that one down here, and that one says what? F of x is equal to -4, comma, and they only want to see this function or this graph for these values of x, and we'll get to that right now. Let's graph it first. Right? So this is the domain. This is like the interval that they want to see the graph only within these values of x. Okay, but let's graph it first. Where is this? What is f of x equals -4? Well, if you graph that on decimals, or if you just know that this part is y is equal to -4. Again, this is just a horizontal line. We're doing a really easy one first. Go to y, go to -4. And again, really lightly on y, go to -4, -1, -2, -3, -4. It's a line that goes this way, right? It goes all the way like this, continuous, continuous, continuous. At y is equal to -4 right here. But now this is going to control how much of that, what piece or how much of that graph or that function I want to see. Well, this says that I only want to see the values of x from -2 to +3. So I'm going to go to -2 on the x, and I'm going to go down to where that is. And you know what? I'm going to put a circle there. And then I'm going to go to 3, right? Because it says I want the values of x that are between or greater than -2 and at the same time less than 3. So 3 is over here, +3 here. I'm going to put a circle there. It doesn't have the equal sign, so I'm going to leave an open circle. And I want to see only the graph between these values of -2 and 3. See, x is between -2 and 3. So how does the graph look between -2 and 3? They only want to see this part of it. And you would erase, and that's good I did this lightly, right? You would erase all this other part of it. And that's it. And that would be it for this one. This one only has 2. Okay. Let's do one more for this video a little bit quicker. Okay. What about something like this? Now they're not always going to use f of x. Sometimes they'll say g of x or h of x or whatever. Don't worry about that. That part is the y anyways. Okay, let's do this one quicker. This one's going to be this is number 2. G of x is equal to, this one's going to have 3, 4, 2, and -5. And I'm just going to put the inequalities which controls how much of it you're going to keep and how much of it we're going to erase, right? You got to know how to read this. And this. Okay, the first one is g of x is equal to 4. G of x is equal to 4 is really just the line y is equal to 4. Okay, if I graph this line, y is equal to 4 for this top one, I'm doing this top one first. That means go to y, go to 4, and I'm going to lightly know that it's just a horizontal line like this, right? I should get a pencil, huh? Hold on, let me get a pencil. Okay, got a pencil, but I already drew this with a pen. Anyways, for this one that y is equal to 4, I'm doing this. I want to keep only the values of x that, what does this say? The values of x that are what? Values of x that are less than, right? It's less than -3. So on x, you go to x, you go to that number, -3, you put a circle right there. It doesn't have the equal sign, so I'm not going to fill it in. It doesn't include it. And the values from -3 that are less, all these x values that are less than -3 are this way. So that means we want to keep this side of this graph. We'll put an arrowhead like that. And see, that's when you would erase this, which I can't because I used the pen. But you would erase all this other side and you keep this from -3. Great, I got a broken pencil. Oh, let me sharpen it. Okay, the second one. What does that say? Oh, great, I'm sharpening my pencil. All right, there it is. Okay, the second one says g of x is equal to 2. The second function now, this one here. G of x is equal to 2 is really y is equal to 2. That's another horizontal line. So I'm going to go to y. I'm going to go to 2. Positive 2 right here. And the graph is a continuous line like this going all the way across. But I'm not going to keep all of that. Because this says I only want to see the values of x between, see x is between what? -3. So I go to x, I go -3, I go up to the graph, I put a circle. And it does have an equal sign here at the -3, so I do fill it in. And the other number on this other end is positive 3. So I go to x, I go to positive 3, I go up to the graph, and I put a circle. And this one does not have the equal sign, so don't fill it in. So x, I want the values of x that are greater than negative 3, which is this way, and less than 3. So everything in between. See, x is between these two numbers. So you only want to see this much, only that piece of the graph. So what do you do with all this? This is the part you erase. See, you erase this. And that's why these are called piecewise defined. Only a certain piece, only a certain piece is being defined that you want to see. Okay, but you initially do graph the whole thing first, the whole line first in this case. In the next video, they're not going to be simple lines. They're not these simple horizontal lines. Okay, last one for this video. The last one here is what? The third line here is what? G of x is equal to negative 5. We haven't done that one, right? What is the graph of g of x is equal to negative 5? Well, really, again, this part is just what? Y equals negative 5. You can type it in like this on the decimals, or you can type it in like this. It's the same thing. You'll get the same graph. Go to y, go to negative 5. Again, we're starting off really easy. We're just seeing these horizontal lines. Okay, this is the whole graph of that line, but I don't want to see that whole graph. It's going to be defined. Okay, what values of x do you want to see? Well, look at here for this one. Right, it was this one, this third one here. It wants what? Now the inequality is opening to the x at 3. So let's go to x at 3. See, this is the crucial point. Go to x, go to 3, go down to the graph, put a circle there. At 3, oh, it is equal to it, so let's fill it in. And now I do want the values of x that are greater, right? Because now it's opening up to it's eating the x, so that means that the number of x is greater or equal to 3. Here's 3. Where are all the numbers greater than 3? Well, that way to the right, right? That means we keep this part. We want to keep this part. That means this stays, all of this stays. And we don't want any of this other side. See, this gets erased. So you do first have to graph the whole line, and then you got to read this to tell you what piece of that you're going to keep. All right, and at the same time, well, which part you're going to erase. Okay, we'll do the ones that are a little bit more challenging in the next video. But that's how you look at these and you read these, and you have the to help you graph this out, use the graphing calculator online. All right, that's it for this one. Look at the next one.